Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says the ripple effects of Russia's invasion in Ukraine include major disruptions to the United Nations food program. He says the impact of that invasion goes far beyond soaring energy prices, and the world must respond. Ukraine is one of the world's major wheat exporters, and since Russia's attack, global wheat prices have risen to levels not seen since 2008. Global Affairs Canada Assistant Deputy Minister Sandra McArdle says Canada is already making contingency plans to support countries that rely heavily on wheat exports from Ukraine. With us to discuss food insecurity in Canada and around the world is Dr. Sylvain Charlebois, Director of the Agri-Food Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University. Doctor, welcome back to Forum Daily.
Well, thank you.
So let's start with how the Russian invasion of Ukraine is affecting food security around the world.
Well, in the agri-food sector, everything is interconnected. What happens if something happens in the Ukraine, it will eventually catch up to us. When you look at prices, availability, and obviously the conflict in that region is clearly impacting access and the ability of that region to export as well. And that region is responsible for over 25% of world exports for wheat and corn specifically. And so those are key ingredients for the entire agri-food sector around the globe. The other issue, of course, are fertilizers. Without proper fertilizers, without access to fertilizers, you can't grow more, which is why global food security is a little unnerving right now.
And at the same time, we hear the Prime Minister saying this invasion will disrupt the UN World Food Program. So what is the significance of this and how does this connect to Canada?
Well, absolutely. So growing anything will be difficult this year. So the UN program will be impacted, no doubt. So this is not a good thing. It's not happening at the right. Well, it's a world conflict. Obviously, it's war, but it couldn't have happened at a worse time, given the fact that supply chains were experiencing some major challenges over the last 6 months, and now with this war happening in the Ukraine. Again, we will see food prices around the world increase, including in Canada, US, and elsewhere.
And we know Canada is known for its wheat exports as well. So what is the scale of Canada's involvement in global wheat exports?
So actually, we export slightly more than the Ukraine, but not much, which is why, I mean, if something were to happen in Canada, we may actually see the same kind of impact around the world. But Canada is not as complicated as Europe, as you know. And so that's why a lot of investments are coming our way. However, to balance things out, you really need Europe's bread basket to function quite well. And Ukraine right now, along with Belarus and Russia, aren't necessarily well. We're not looking at a very productive harvest for this year as a result of the conflict, so which will actually disrupt markets for a very long time.
And you mentioned earlier the cost of fertilizer is rising, so is the cost of fuel. So how would this affect farmers and consumers within Canada?
So farmers obviously are very concerned about fertilizers. They've been concerned about fertilizers for months now because of supply chain problems. But now with this conflict, we are expecting fertilizer prices to move even more. We're hoping that Canadian companies like Nutrien and Mosaic will see their roles a little bit differently this year instead of trying to capitalize on strong demand for fertilizers. So it's a hope and see sort of scenario. As for consumers, oil is the big story right now. We are expecting oil prices to impact food prices early on due to higher transportation costs.
All right, Dr. Charlebois, just about a minute left here, but what are some other items that Canadian consumers should expect to see the biggest jumps in?
So over the short term, oil is the big story with transportation costs. Midterm, 3 to 6 months, if the conflict continues, we are expecting grain-based food products to be impacted. Bakery, center of the store sort of products will be impacted. And over the long term, we are expecting yet again animal proteins to be impacted. So looking at the meat trifecta, pork, chicken, and beef. We're expecting higher prices at the meat counter. And finally, over a year, dairy and eggs could be impacted.
All right, Dr. Charlebois, thank you again for your time today.
My pleasure.